Alright, this week we're doing something a little bit different in the vlog. We're going to do an equipment chat. Now, I've purposely left this to, what are we up to? 6th week now, I think? Yeah, around week 6. Because I don't want it to be seen that equipment is the big game changer that's going to unlock anything for you. And I'm probably speaking to myself. I think we've all fallen into this camp of the better bike, the better shoes. I touched on the fact I played golf quite heavily. I do a little tiny amount still, but used to play severely, and oh boy, better clubs is gotta be probably number one thought any new golfer thinks is gonna break 100, break 80, break 90, whatever it is you're up to. And cycling is exactly the same. Better bike, and I do have a very nice bike I'm going to go through today, but better bike is certainly one of those things that every cyclist thinks is going to definitely get them across the line first or second or whatever position they're after. So I just want to preface today's video before I jump into my gear chart, because I love gear chart. I love it more than anything. But I want to preface that better gear will not mean better results unless you've put in weeks 1 through to 5, unless you've really put in the effort. You've looked at your training, your diet, your sleep, everything, and you're doing everything right. And then we can have a little look at the gear and see what you can do, which we're going to do right now. So I have a S-Works SL8. I don't know how old now, 4 months, 5 months maybe for me, somewhere around that-ish. And it's unreal. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what's special on it and what my thoughts on the actual bike are. But just for reference, when I race, I never got really the chance to race on Specialized. I always wanted to, but I was always on Cervelos. And now Cervelo's actually really cool, but back when I was racing, Cervelos were not that cool. What else was I on quite a lot? I was on Look once. Looks were really, really cool. That was actually probably the best bike I had. I had a Look 695. Sadly, it was a crash. I think 1 or maybe 2 of them, I think. I can't remember how many, but I did wreck one. There is still a wrecked one floating around somewhere of mine. But they were very cool, but I never got the chance to ride on the big S, as I always like to call them. I have now owned 6 of them, or 5 of them, something ridiculous. That's how good they are, at least to me. Bikes are very subjective. What's good for you might not be good for someone else. But look, for me, why I picked this bike was really, because I'm not sponsored anywhere even close to it anymore. So I get my choice, basically is what that means. And I went through deciding based off the riding I'm going to do in the next 3-4 years, because I don't think I'll change bikes now for about 4 years. What would be the best bike for that? And it was a do-it-all bike, basically, is what I come down to. I'm really into Tour Mag, if you know that channel or the magazine. They do a lot of aerodynamic postings and that kind of stuff, and what's the quickest bike based off yaw angles and this kind of stuff. I'm really into that stuff, get real geeky on it. And the SL8 performed rather well. So they got, if you don't know, I might throw it up on the screen whilst I'm talking. I'll see if I can find a bit of an edit on it. But essentially they test bikes around 40k an hour-ish, roughly, I think it is. And then they give it how many watts you'd have to do to overcome the wind drag at that particular speed. And then they also go into like yaw angles and kind of stuff like that. It gets a bit more real geeky after that. But basically, it's just a chart, and it's just a quick, cool way to see how your bike might perform to other bikes. So, for example, I think it's like the Simpleton is the top one, which is a real tri kind of crew kind of bike, and it's fast. It does like 198. I think it's like 198 watts or something like that at 40k an hour. It's unreal. Then you got like the S5s, the Air Roads. I think it's like the Cannondale System 6. It is, yeah, the System 6, their aero bike. They're all in that 203 to 205 watt crowd, which is dedicated aero bike crowd. Now I rate a dedicated aero bike. I don't think there's too many cooler looking bikes out there. Scott Foil lovers now love a Scott Foil, but for me, the kind of riding I do involve going uphill quite a bit. Back when I was racing, I loved that the most. That was my niche or my field. So I still like the idea that I could maybe go uphill quick, I weigh 75 kilos now, so maybe that's not a reality for me. But I like the feeling of going up and I like the sensations, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted something a little bit lighter than one of those outright dedicated aero bikes. Now we're talking, look, you can still get a Scott foil at around 8 kilos or somewhere around that. I ride a 58 centimeter, so around 8 kilos for an aero bike's about right. So then the thing then for me was, okay, well, what do-it-all bikes are there? Because I still care about aero, but I care a little bit about weight, just a tiny amount. And I definitely care about how the bike feels. That's a third thing. They're probably my top 3 for any bike I pick. All in all, the SL8 on that aero jig that they have a tool mag, it tests really well. I think it's like 208 watts, so it's only 3 or 4 watts slower than a Scott Foil or a Sabello S5 or any of those dedicated outright aero bikes. 3-4 watts, it's not necessarily unnoticeable, but I have hairy legs. I have a bad position on the bike prior to this. Old school, get down real low, arms down like stupid stuff, basically how you used to ride. So I had some stuff I could fix straight away to overcome it. And that's what I've done on this bike, which I'll walk you through quickly in a moment. But basically I thought, well, I could overcome 3 or 4 watts just by choice of equipment, basically. I could wear a skin suit, I've got an aero helmet now, I could wear oversaw aero socks or whatever that might be. But I can't overcome an extra kilogram or kilo and a half of weight. There is an equation, I'll try to find it and throw up on the screen. If not, I might link something down below in this video. But there is a rough back of the napkin maths that I always use when I was racing. And that was per 1 kilo on a 7% slope, you'd be giving up 15 watts. So 1 kg is enough. Now this thing, as it stands right now, not in this spec, I'd have to take off a few of the extra bits on it, but at race weight is 7 kilos flat. I could get it even lighter, maybe 6.5, but 7 kilos is enough. So I am saving over a Scott foil in the same size, a Sabello S5 in the same size, and I think an Aerod's even heavier. I'm saving 1.5 kg straight away. That's, what is that, 22 just about watts saved going up a 7% incline. I've spoken about doing Tour de Brisbane. There's some other objectives after that on the bike. There's a big hill in Tour de Brisbane. I'm going to appreciate having 22 extra watts in the kitty to get to whip out going up Mount Cootha. So that was a little bit of why the SL8. Now I'm going to take you through quickly. Let me grab my camera. Spin that around, there we go. So what it is, it's pretty much stock, but I've got Rover wheels. These are stock, they're the CLX2s. They run DT Swiss internals, so very, very nice wheels. I wish they were a little bit wider on the internal rim width. I think there's potentially a new set coming from them or something along those lines from Rover soon. That will be that, because obviously, look, at the moment there's a lot of Chinese wheel set manufacturers out there that are doing pretty great stuff, and they run around that 24 to 26, those wheel manufacturers. So Roval, I think these are from memory 23, or it could even be 21, so they're quite narrow. The tires I've got on it, for example, if we look at it head on, the tires I've got on there are 26s, and I think it's almost just about optimized for 26. It's 28s are probably going to be a little bit balloony, but not too bad. But overall, these are very nice wheels. I'm not looking to change my wheels at all. I'm very, very happy with them. They're quite light. They're around that 1400 grams. You can get slightly lighter. That's touching on some of the things I could upgrade to get at 6.5, but overall, I'm happy with that. I was very fortunate. I could get a 135 2-in-1, the Roval 2-in-1 bar and stem. So I typically run a 140 stem. For reference, I'm 194 centimeters, so I got a little bit of the length stuff to deal with. But I was very fortunate to get 135 bars in 40 centimeter diameter, which is very nice, can tuck in. I've got a little bit of the paw action going on, so I can tuck the elbows in a little bit. And then I just got the standard S-Works seat post. This is quite light. They did, or they redid it from the SL8. So this is coming in around 130. For any of the weight weenies that are out there, there's always I think it's like Daramo, I think make a aftermarket solution. but even it is like 119-ish. So S-Works did a really good job on this one. It's the mirror saddle. I run the 143. That's the 3D printed, cool, tricked out thing. Oh man, this thing, so comfortable. I can't rave this particular, the 3D print one, any more than I already do to a lot of people. So this, without a doubt, is probably my favorite thing on the bike, this saddle alone. I've got a Veraria on the Garmin radar unit, and then just, what is it? A Skin Grows Back saddlebag there as well. It's running Dura, good old, the top stuff, Di2. And then I've got the top range looks. I don't know exactly the name of these things. Keto, Blade 2, Titanium, Carbon, yep, all those great ticks. And then it's the stock standard, which is new. This is a bizarre stock standard for me. 52, 36, 11, 30, I think it is on the back. So it's it's actually a really good combo. I don't want to change it, but it was weird because I'm used to 53, 39. That's the old way of doing everything. So it was weird having a 52 up front, but to be honest, I don't really find myself missing the 53. It's still an 11 on the back. Look, you could get a 54, 11, sure, I'm no sprinter, so I'm not really missing out. I think I'm happy with that. And then 36, 30 on the back, well, I'm talking about gears for days. I'm almost spinning up every climb. And then I've got these Supercars drink bottles on there just for the weight weenie spec. The Supercars handlebar tape is actually quite heavy, so I could drop probably 50 grams straight away there. And I don't have the exact TPU tubes in there just yet that I will be using. They're like the Ride Now ones that only weigh 15 grams. They're whatever the stocks came with, but I haven't got a flat yet. So it's running on those S-Work Turbo Cottons, which they don't really last that long, but I have managed to get about, I think I've done 700K on the bike now. So I will be chucking GP 5000s in 30s on once these tires go though. That is the grand plan. And then I've got just an 830 head unit. I've got this cool Nog helmet, Nog light. I got this recently. It's actually very bright and it comes with this sweet mount that just, it makes it all neat, tucks in nicely. So I really do rate that. But the big thing for me is just the position this bike gives me. I can really tuck in. It's outright, to be honest, this is my big claim I'm gonna make. I'm gonna chuck the camera back up here now. But for me, this bike is actually much, much quicker than any other bike that I've ever ridden personally, which is a big claim. The last road bike I had for reference prior to this was, I think it was my SL6. I think I had the SL6 prior to this. I did have a Canyon in-flight for so long. That was my do-it-all bike before the do-it-all, different gravel and CX and road and everything. So I was a hipster. I did it before it was cool, basically. I had that in-flight in 2018, basically. I was doing it for CX, but then I made it my road bike. I had 3 different sets of wheels. I actually think that's the solution for a lot of people. You should do that, but I pretty much only stick to road these days. So chat on this is basically, for me, compared to any other road bike I've ridden, it is so quick. I've done some rides on the road where I'm averaging, 38, 39K an hour for just standard 70, 80K rides. But my wattage, you wouldn't think I would have. I'm averaging 240, 250, maybe 280 normalized. So it's not like I'm doing anything outrageous, but it's just how quick these new bikes are. And I was blown away by that, to be honest. I didn't think, and this is contradicting myself in the opening, I didn't think gear had come along that far for road bikes just yet. And there's some people that have done these tests, and I'm kind of keen to do one myself when I've relocated. But I think bikes 10 years ago versus bikes now, if you run it how you did 10 years ago, so I'm talking 23mm tires, maybe box section rims, because you used to run on training wheels. I honestly think you're either going from averaging 31, 32 to now 37, 36, somewhere around there, or you're putting out, I don't even know, at least an extra 40 watts to overcome the difference. I think that is the biggest game change in terms of equipment that's come along. I think position's a huge part of that, so don't get me wrong. The new positions we run, which is much more forward over the bars, so you can get your arms up and tucked in, that's much quicker than anything I had when I was racing. But overall, the tubing's really improved. You don't see any cables out on these bikes anymore. I've said two contradictory statements, basically that yes, I don't think gear is going to be a big changer for you in terms of relative, but in terms of relative to bikes from 10 years ago, these things are rocket ships. And then weight hasn't come along anywhere, to be honest. These bikes, because of the disc setup, they're still heavy-ish, or heavier than a bike could have been when it was rim. But that kind of doesn't matter, because you're arriving at the climb so much fresher than one of these old style bikes that you actually have more watts available on the climb anyway. So much so I think you'd outpace yourself. That's a big theory I'm throwing out there. But yeah, these things, or this bike in particular, is unreal. It's that bloody light as full training setup. So I've got the light on, I've got the bag on, I've got the variety on. It's very good. I've got 2 full biddens in as well. But this bike is absolutely unreal. Now the second bike, I'm going to... Alright, the other piece of equipment that is very big in my training would be the Zwift Ride. I do probably around 80 to 90% of my training indoors. That's for a lot of reasons. I live in a capital city currently. I am relocating, but look, I live in Melbourne. Training in Melbourne is not the best. Some people would have you believe Melbourne's a really good riding city. I don't know where or how. There's good bunches, sort of. We've got one main one that's 100k that way. But overall, it's not the best for riding outside in. It's a bit risky. I've been hit by 2 cars since I've lived here just on commuting alone. It's not exactly safe out there. And I think you can get a better workout indoors, or at least a bit more of a dedicated workout indoors. And I'm pretty fortunate that I've ridden or worked for Zwift in the past. So I've been riding on Zwift for quite a long time. That's my platform I choose to ride indoors. Many out there, they're all very good, but look, Zwift for me is the most engaging. I have the most fun on there. They've got heaps of races, big user base that you can just jump in and have a bit of fun with anyone. A lot of different sectors that really test yourself out on. So I've had a long experience on there. I've been a Zwifter for about 9 years, I want to say now. Probably somewhere around that. I want to say it's around 9 years. And I've ridden different pieces of equipment. I think I started out with a Kicker V1. That was the very first thing I had, no handle one. I remember that because it was so annoying to carry around. And I'd simply put my bike, I just walked you guys through, on it. That was it. That was pretty much the setup. It sounds easier than it is. You have to tinker around a little bit and change the gears slightly to make it fit. But that was my original setup. I've had a couple kickers. I had the V2, the V3, the V4. I had a Neo for a fair bit whilst I worked at Zwift just to see what that was like. I had the kicker bike V1, I had a Stages, and I've been on the Neo bike quite a lot. We have that at the HQ quite regularly, so I've ridden that quite a bit. And also the Watt bike Atom, that was different as well. It's not bad. They're all got just different experiences, and I think the nice thing about the Watt bike Atom was it's a very small profile. But I've been on this bad boy for about, well, counted in hours. I count my Zwift riding in hours mostly, not kilometers. But I've done probably 300 to 500 hours on this somewhere, give or take. Now, I, through I could just run it off, have had a bit of a wide catalogue of experiences on different training equipment indoors. This one's the best, 100% hands down. I will caveat that and put it with a big asterisk that it's the best with Zwift. I don't use this for any other platforms. I've not tried it with my Whoosh. I've not tried it with Trainer Road, although I hear that there's that integration now. So I don't know what it's like with those. I'd imagine that I think some of them integrate, but look, for Zwift, there is not a better bike to be using. This thing packs down so easy. And it's got all the adjustability in the world. This comes all the way up, your handlebars just slide along this little thing. You can get this tray out of the way. There's little guards and guides, I guess, that kind of reference where your setup is, through lettering, so you can remember what your setup might be. And then if you share your household or share the bike with someone, you can have them also set up. It's got this really cool little tray at the front to keep your iPad on. So I'm running Zwift on my big TV at the front. And then I put an iPad on here so I can watch, I call it Seinfeld and Zwift. But I watch Seinfeld whilst I Zwift. It's really good. I recommend it if you're not trying it yet. And you can slap your phone down here, little sweat towel just here. Your happy days, you're away, everything is suddenly at your fingertips, so easy to control. Then I have a kicker, what is it, a core at the back? Yeah, that's right, I'm gonna kick a core. Obviously this is with cog on, which is what these little buttons and stuff talk to. So I can change gears electronically. So in game it kind of uses different tensions, I guess, back here to really just simulate gear changing, which is pretty effective, to be honest. To me, it's a good experience. I cannot complain with it. I've run a few top 10s now in ZRL. It clearly works, basically is what I'm trying to say to anyone out there who thinks it doesn't. And then this is really cool. It's just got this little Allen key that changes literally any bolt on the bike that you may need. It just tucks in electronically or magnetically like that. The other thing I want to show you, I used to be a apartment liver. Nowadays, I'm fortunate that I get a house and the full dedicated setup. But check out how cool this is. So I get the through axle out, which is always, everyone's removing the through axle, don't they? So I'll pop that out, let's just sit it there, tuck that in. There's this really cool thing down here, just a tensioner, and you just pop that down. The chain is now detensioned. I can pick the bike up. I get the chain off the cog, obviously. And then just look at this thing, it's not even that heavy. This is, it weighs probably 3 kilos. I can just pop this behind my door. I could have someone over and stay in this room suddenly. So if I was in an apartment, just how convenient that would be. I had Zwift in my original apartment when I moved to Melbourne, and I had to have it out on my patio because first I was living with it at the time. I'm not a big fan of having the bike inside, and probably fair enough. Really wants a bike just lingering around everywhere. So that would be very nice to have it around because I could just move it out of the way. So then you slop it back on like that. You're probably a little bit better at doing this than me, maybe. I'm never the best at going through axles for whatever reason. I grew up on quick release, alright, so give me a break there. I did not line that up the best, I don't think. Hey. Alright, there we go. So you just wind that back in, get your through axle. There we go. Chuck that back into there. Pop your chain tensioner back up. Alright, then you pop your little chain tensioner back up just like that, and away you go. It's not difficult at all. I'm blown away by just how convenient this whole setup is. It's pretty small profile of that. Well, Adam would be a bit smaller, but all in all, this is probably ideal for pretty much anyone riding on Zwift. This setup up here is my favourite thing. The fact I can have an iPad, I can have Zwift running. It's just that convenient. But yeah, touching on my training, like I said, I do about 80 to 90% indoors. We're going to talk a little bit more. This is my good segue into my training for the next log. I do it kind of unstructured, but I typically, so I do ZRL on a Tuesday. I try to pick a race on Wednesday that's a little bit of an easier race. And then I pick another hard race again for Thursday. And then on Saturday, Sunday, I tend to do longer endurance rides. Whether it's outside or indoors, it doesn't particularly matter. But I find riding on Zwift harder than outdoors because there is no release. There's no free wheel, basically. You don't get the downhills where you can be off the pedals or rolling into lights. It's just, you're always on the pedals. That's the catch with Zwift. So I think all in all, like, I've been riding for a long time, 25 years now, Jesus. But I was a traditionalist before Zwift. To me, doing the efforts indoors, that was literally the ergo staring at a wall. And geez, I don't know if I counted it as cycling, it was just something you had to do. Whereas nowadays, I'm a full convert. I'm level 91 on Zwift, just ticked over that today, so shout out to me. But I could not shout it out enough to anyone out there. If you're against it, I'd like to know why. I'd love to have that chat. If it's just you like to ride outdoors more, fair enough. I ride on Zwift at the moment, like living in Melbourne, obviously, I don't have too much of a choice sometimes. But I like to look at it this way. I ride on Zwift, so when I ride outdoors, I'm fit enough to just really enjoy the ride. Whatever it is that I'm doing outdoors, I just know with confidence I can smash numbers, I can smash group rides, I can do what I want to do with confidence that it's going to almost, not necessarily be easy, but it's gonna be very enjoyable for me because I've put the work in here. It's like going to the gym. You do that indoors, so then when you go lift whatever heavy outside, it's kind of easier. And that's kind of what I view indoors as. But yeah, that's going to be the chat for next week, is my weekly structure. We're going to go a little bit into why I do certain sessions the way I currently do it. And we're going to look at a little bit of how do I bring a bit of better structure into what I do. Particularly like chat about that VO2 chat that goes on, durability chat, and then maybe potentially just in the power doing the VO2 workouts that I do. Alright guys, thanks for listening to this vlog. We will catch you next week.